Hi, and welcome to the Business Conversation. My name is Michael A.C. Maynard. God bless you. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for joining me for this next exciting show. For everybody who regularly views this show is about business. So if that's you, if you're a Christian in business or one who want to get into business, this is the place to be. So as always, I'm going to go through speaking practical business things. So practical principles, things that you can implement in your business tomorrow or today. Or if you're wanting to start business and you're just trying to gather information, then again, this is the place to be. But I'm going to fuse it with the word because I think it's important that we have a word understanding our business and knowing how we can use the word to impact our business. So that's what this show's about. This title is called The Business Roadmap. This show is called The Business Roadmap, this particular show. And I'll go into that in a little bit more. But just to start off with, let me just introduce to you my book, which was released earlier this year, How to Build a Christian Business. Available on my website, and you'll see it on the screen. Still doing these on offer for £5 at the moment, so feel free to email me and I'll send you a copy of this for £5. You can pay, if you buy it through me, you'll get it for £5. If you buy it through the site, obviously it will go through and charge at the normal price, so please email me on that. And I'm also giving away a free copy of my first book, My Reason Why. This is available for those who want to understand their purpose, and it's free. So email me, I'll send it to you free. If you know somebody who's not quite sure what they're doing in life, whether they're Christian or not, this is the place to be. I'm quite fond of this because it's one of my, obviously it's my first book that I wrote. And I'm just going to read you something off the back of this very quickly because I think it's still powerful today. And it says, life is short. This is the back of the book. It says, so why settle for anything less? Finding your reason why is the most important thing that you could ever do. It comes before marriage, university, friends, family, and even money. You could be in a marriage, but it could have no purpose. You could have millions in the bank, but you get up every morning bored and confused. Your purpose will become your best friend. It will advise you to live, where to live, who to befriend, how to make important decisions. It will become your guide, your friend, your companion in life. Purpose will give you hope. It will create a sense of reason in your home and in all that surrounds you. Now, I could stop there. That's a message alone. Even reading it, I'm realizing I wrote that. I mean, it's a deep word for anyone who does not understand. And as it said, purpose will become your friend. It tells you who to be around. It tells you who to have in your life. We all need something like that, don't we? So get this book. As I said, it's free of charge. Just email me and I'll post it out to you and it will be a blessing to you. And then once you finish, pass it on. And God will truly bless you. So let's go into today's show, and I'm going to spend some time on the board a little bit later because what I'm covering today is a business roadmap. A business roadmap. Now, if I was to tell you what a roadmap is, we all kind of know what a roadmap is, and I guess in your mind you're thinking of a map, which has places on it and goes from A to B, and you can plot where you're going. A business roadmap, it is that, but it's slightly different. It's the chief execs or the managing director or the owner or the founder of the business. It's their vision for how the company will attain its goals. So it's if you like, it's a visual representation. It's a picture of the person who started the business or the chief exec, the person who's running it, their vision of how the company will attain its goals. Okay, so that's what a roadmap is. It's that picture. Now, it could start off as a mental picture, but then it's displayed visually, and it's something that can be passed around. So there's a couple of things that needs to happen. First and foremost, you need goals. That's the first thing. If you do not have goals for your business, you cannot roadmap. You need a vision for your business. Without a vision for it, then, the Bible tells us the people perish. We understand that. But, I did a show a couple of weeks ago that said the people, as the Amplified version says, they cast off restraint. In other words, they're not bound by anything. They'll do anything. They'll sell to anyone. They don't buy anything because there's no constraint in their life, and that's what vision does. So you need goals, you need to have a vision, and until you have that, you cannot do a roadmap. Now, that's when it comes in the more common known to roadmap, getting from point A to B. So in other words, you cannot plot your pathway unless you have clear goals and you have a vision, or in other words, you know where you want to get to. So today I'm going to cover kind of two different models, if you like, and you can actually Google business roadmap and it'll bring up a whole host of things, and you can make them maybe a bit more applicable to your business. But I'm just going to bring two for you today, just to kind of get your mind into this a little bit more. Now, so we're talking about deciding or determining how you're going to get to where you're going to get to. And so the first thing you need to do, if you're already in business, for example, and you do not have a roadmap, you need to gather some information. You need to decide, you need to look at what are the current, as I said, short-term, medium-term and long-term goals that exist already. Now, depending on your company, whether you're a business owner or you're within a larger corporation, you may have to go out to other people. You may have to fact find a little bit to determine what the short and medium and long-term goals are for the company or a particular department. You need to understand, once you have this, in fact, once you know this, you can then start to break it down into different areas. So this is just one example, and please take notes. So the first thing that you could do, or one of the categories, is strategic goals. As I said, you've got to have a goal, but it's got to be strategic. It's got to be in line with your vision. So a strategic goal. The next heading, you need a reinvestment strategy. So when your business is making money, or if it's currently making money, how are you going to reinvest that? What are you going to do with the profit? Are you just trying to make profit so you can live life? How are you going to reinvest it back into the business? And what are you going to reinvest in? The next, there should be a growth strategy. So how are you going to expand? How's your business going to grow from trading $500,000 to 10 million? How's it going to do that? How's your business going to grow from employing 2 people to 20 people? There needs to be a growth strategy. The next is financial targets. What do you want to turn over? And I almost, I said it in a growth strategy. One of the targets could be getting from $500,000 to 20 million, for example. What are your financial targets? What do you want to make a profit in year 1 or year 2 or year 3? Or if you're an existing business, what profit margin do you want to make? In year 10 or 20, depending on how long you've been trading. And the last one is operational targets. So that's looking at the function of the business, how it's functioning operationally. That could be anything from the way staff are working together. That could be down to the way you're selling to your customers, your sales strategy. It could be down to your pricing. Those things are operationally that you do. How can you have targets, gaining targets for those? So that's 5 areas: strategic, reinvestment, growth, financial, and operational. So I hope you've written those down. I'll pop them up on the screen shortly so you can see them. But once you have these 5 areas, against each of these areas, you need to have a goal for each area. So for example, let me just pick one of them. As I said, growth strategy. The goal could be to expand into another country. That's one way the business is going to grow. The business will grow by expanding into a different country, and it's going to do this by setting up in 2 years' time, in Cuba, for example. That's one of your goals. And against that goal, you would have a number of associated activities. So if you're going to expand into Cuba within 2 years' time, what tasks do you need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that will help you reinforce that strategy, that will help you attain that goal? What actions do you need to take? And you need to have those for all of those areas, okay? All of those areas. So this is, I know it's a little bit deep, but we're talking about how to get to where we want to get to. So against each area, you will have that broken down with activities and deadlines, specific deadlines on how you're going to do that. And you can take it further, and you can actually allocate people to those tasks if you really want to. And that's one way you can help, because then you make somebody actually responsible for that particular task. Okay, so let me just summarize it, and I'll put it on the screen, but you will have the 5 areas. You will have a goal against each area, and then against each goal you will have activities underpinning it, and against each activity you will have a deadline. And that way it will allow you to stay on track, and you now have a roadmap. You have a way, you know where you're going, you know how you're getting there, and you know how long. So I'm just going to show you this on the board, just in a graphical display, and then we'll move on. Okay, so we've just been through how to do a roadmap, and what I want to show you is a graphical display of that. So that, because what I want you to do is to do your own business roadmap, which is quite important. So anything we do here, I've done it based on my business, but what I want you to do is to base it on your business. Okay, so I've put a couple on there, but let's look at the first thing. So this one I've just been through, and I just kind of wanted to show you the importance of it. And remember, it's a kind of a step down approach. So the 5 areas that I looked at, just for clarification, was strategic goals, it was reinvestment strategy, it was growth strategy, it was financial targets, and it was operational targets, okay? So those are the 5 areas that we've literally just discussed. But if we now put them on here, and what I've tried to do is to show you, as I said, specifically around my business. So under strategic goals, one of my strategic goals may be to relocate, because I know for me to position in the business in where I want it to be, relocation is key. Where I'm at currently, yeah, it does okay, but I want to be a more central, I want to have people be able to drop in or whichever, so I need to relocate the business, okay? So that's one of the actions that I will do. And one of the goals that I'll put forward. The action attached to that is search. So I need to start to look, you know, very basic action, but it ties directly in. And what I can do from that point, if I grab my pen, is I can say to myself, well, I'm going to attach to this a deadline of 1 year, for example, okay? So I've now then set under my roadmap for strategic goals, I need to relocate to help me position, I need to start to search, and I've given myself a year to do it. All right, so I've got a goal under that. If we move on to reinvestment strategy, remember this is about once you start to make a profit, how are you going to reinvest back into your business? How is your business going to, how are you going to, you know, what are you going to spend the money on? And so following on from my strategic goal, I'm going to open a new center, okay? So that could be one of my reinvestment strategies. Rather than, you know, investing in more machinery, I'm going to open a new center. It could be because I've relocated, or it could be an additional, potentially. So underneath that, that's the goal. Underneath that is my action. Well, my action is to ensure that it's a purpose-built center. So I'll start to look at what it needs to have, okay? So that's my action. It's a little bit of research. It's trying to understand my own service and looking at what I need. So again, I can attach to that, let's say 6 months. All right, so now I have a deadline, I have an action, I've got a goal. And if I look at the next one, a growth strategy. So how do I want my company to grow? What's my growth strategy? Well, one of the goals could be to develop partnerships with other people. So by developing partnerships, I'm allowing myself to grow because I'm expanding. Now, they could be complementary businesses, or my partners could be people that have got other buildings, and maybe I'm renting space from them, for example. So I'm growing by expanding my footprint. Remember I said enlarging my territory. I mentioned in the last show that I have a right to expand because the scripture says I have. And so my action from that is to research. I need to look around, see who's around and see what's suitable. And if I give myself a time limit, I would say 3 months. Okay? So moving onwards, looking at my financial targets, well, I'm going to set myself a £2 million target. That's the turnover that I want. And I'm going to, for efficiency, my action is to be more efficient. Now, it could be to get more sales, 100%, but I'm going to be more efficient. So I'm going to look at my existing practices and work out how I can save money. You know, what can I do better that increases my profit margin? And that's, so many of us are in businesses where there's a lot of waste. And if we then looked at our own practices, how can I eliminate some of that? How can I eliminate some of the waste? What can I do differently? And what can I do better? So you can see you're starting to, by being more efficient, you're still increasing your profit, you know. And if I could give myself efficiency, again, 3 months. And the last one is operational target. Remember I talked about changing things operationally. So one of my targets has been, so people who are coming into the office, I want them to book electronically. So they don't have to speak to anyone. They click a button, whether it's on the website or through maybe an app on their phone, and they book directly into the office. So that's my goal. And in order to do that, I have to develop a system. That's the action. Whether it be the website, whether it be the app, I've got to develop a system that allows them to do that. Now, that may take a little bit longer, so I'm going to give it 8 months. So straight away, you can see that we've now developed a roadmap for my business. And so that's what I want you to do. Remember the 5 areas. You should already have them. Start to drill down now and have a look at how you can develop this roadmap for your business. And remember, with all of these, you can develop further goals, more actions, and you can even, if you're not on your own, you can allocate this to different people. So you could give that to Sam, for example, just randomly. And you give somebody another action, and then you put a timeline on when Sam needs to come back to you after she's searched. Okay? So now you've got a roadmap. If you're already in business, and business is not just about entrepreneurs, and as we know, and those who are doing their own business, you could be part of a bigger company. So if you're already part of that company, you already have or head of a department or in a department, if you look at another model which may be more beneficial is one that's done by what they call the Lean Six Sigma model. You can Google Six Sigma. It's an old, traditionally a manufacturing methodology, but it talks about efficiencies. And so the model that Lean uses, and I just want to cover it from a very basic version, and I advise you to go and research it yourself. But if you're existing in business or part of another business, it brings out 5 areas: diagnostic, stability, strategy, action, and evaluation. And you know, probably a better way to draw this would actually to be drawn in a circle, because it's a continual process. I've done it in a line here, but it's a continual process. So if we look at very quickly, if you look at diagnostic tells you, it gets you to look at where you are today. Look at the culture of the organization, look at what your customers are saying, your stakeholders are saying, look at where you're at. Do a diagnostic, understand where you're at. Once you've done that, look at the stability. So look at the disciplines of the business and the policies that are in existence. Get an understanding of where you currently are and what you need in order, what policy do you need to go further forward. Then you come up with a strategy. You develop a strategy, so that could be your vision. You know, where do you see it going? Now you've done the diagnostic and you've looked at the policy side of it. You've looked at what underpins it. Where do you see it going? And what plans could you then have associated with that? The next part is action. Well, that's just simply doing what we did here, drawing up actions, drawing up tasks, actually doing it, going out and doing it, and based on the strategy that you've just developed now, you're going to do an action. You're going to put an action plan forward, okay? And then the final part is evaluation. Looking at what worked, what didn't work, looking at your lessons learned. How can I do things better? How can I change things? And with this process, you can implement this at any given time. In other words, even whilst you've developed your roadmap and you're following it, you could actually turn around and say, well, I'm going to run this again. I'm going to do this again because I want to constantly ensure that I am implementing my roadmap and ensuring that it's successful. So you run the cycle again, and that's why it's a continuous cycle, because you're always looking, assessing where you are, underpinning it with policy and structure, devising a strategy, developing actions, and then evaluating where you are. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour to a Lean Six Sigma roadmap, and obviously the other model at the top. But do that for your business, okay? These are practical things that will help you. So please use them. And let me know how you got on. You know, we need to know where we're going, and it's tools like this that are going to help us. So let me put these down. Make sure you don't miss them. If you need anything, email me on my email address. If you need further clarification around any of these, and I'll do my best to take you through. Okay, so hopefully you got that, and I just tried to show you. So you've now seen both versions, if you like, and you've got an idea of what a roadmap looks like. And I understand this is a very practical session today, because I want you to leave here actually doing this stuff. I don't, you know, sometimes I do this show and I want to inspire you, of course I want to, but I want to give you knowledge, I want to give you tools to be able to implement in your business. So it's important. So you now have both strategies. I hope you're starting to do your roadmaps, and you're at home doing those, and you're going to use them or share them with your staff or your colleagues tomorrow and say, this is where the business will go. And as always, this is just a practical tool. It's not from the Bible, but it's something for us to use to further our business, and also attached with our faith, then God can do great wonders if we're willing to believe. So I hope that was being a blessing to you. Just to end off with, I encourage you to, as I said, the book is on offer. Please email me for the free copy of My Reason Why, or email me for if you want to purchase the book. But I want to encourage you to stay in business. I want to encourage you. I understand that things are quite hard at the moment. And I'm not just talking about, you know, financially, because some people are doing very well in business, and that's not it. But just the amount of pressure that sometimes as business people we can be under. You know, the pressure to, if you have staff, to keep them in employment, to further your business, to stay attached to your spirituality, to your church, to please God. All of these things sometimes are quite hard, and they're a lot, you know. But I want to encourage you to continue. You know, God never said it would be easy. That's the first and foremost. But we need to realize that we're on an assignment from Him. And you are working for the business department, or the business part of heaven, because God has infused in you His desire to increase. You know, and we're expanding His kingdom, but through business. I mean, that's a mighty, mighty calling. You know, so I encourage you to keep going. I encourage you to believe more than you've believed before, but to put your hand to the plow, to be practical. You know, I believe that we need practical faith, and that's a sermon in by itself, but practical faith. In other words, one hand is the believer and one hand is the doer, and they work hand in hand. One hand believes and one hand does. It's practical. It's not faith that is up there. You know, in business, sometimes we do that blue sky thinking of great ideas, but we don't actually implement them. We just think of them, we got them, and they feel good and make us feel good. But do they come into fruition? Not often. They're just ideas. But practical faith is believing and doing hand in hand. There's no disparity between the two. But knowing that God has called you to take dominion, and He's called you to go further, and He's called you to take ground. You have a right to do so, as I was saying on the last show. So I encourage you to keep going. I just want to end on a scripture, one of my favourite scriptures, and that governs this show. Luke 19 verse 13, and I'm going to do a whole show on that scripture. But the rich young ruler says to the servant, he says, "Go do business until I come back." He gives him a command. And when he came back, his expectation was that they made a profit. I believe God is expecting us to make a profit. He's expecting us to grow. He's expecting us to expand. He's expecting us to be a blessing for His kingdom. And He has called us as kings to go forward into this earth. So until next week, email me. Let me know if there's anything that particular subjects you want to cover on the show. Happy to do that. Just let me know how you're getting on in business. It'll be good to hear, and you can encourage me in my business. I run several businesses, which you can see if you access my website. So encourage me. Tell me things that God has done for you. That would be a blessing to me, and maybe things that I can share on the show. So without further ado, I will see you next week. I'm Michael A.C. Maynard. God bless you. See you next week.